Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Pursuit Podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Antonaire, and this week we are joined by the Executive Director of our Law Enforcement Division, Mr. Mike Glass. With us being between turkey and fishing seasons, Ben and I thought it would be the perfect time to shine some light on one of our unique services, our Law Enforcement Division. First, we dive into Mike's background and what led him to our team. Then we get into some of the services we provide LE departments nationwide and how it's more than just selling products to us. Finally, we get into some of the equipment that we do sell in the departments that we work with. We've been known for a very long time for having some of the best selection of products for our customers, whether it's fishing, hunting, or even shooting sports. But with today's conversation, we hope to shed more light on the service that we provide to those who put their life on the line daily. I know that even as an employee, I learned a ton about our law enforcement services just on this conversation. With that said, please welcome Vance LE Executive Director, Mike Glass. Thanks for coming in, man.
Sure.
Yeah, we appreciate you making it in. So like I said, Mike Glass, Executive Director here at the Vance Outdoors Law Enforcement Division.
Correct.
That's a mouthful, so I'm glad I got it right.
There you go.
Awesome. Well, yeah, man, thanks for coming. I know LE is something that we've been, shout out Kevin. LE is something that we have here that I think a lot of people probably don't know. You know, we service the law enforcement community, first responder community, I should say, in general, because not necessarily just law enforcement. But what I wanted to do is just kind of let our customers and our listeners know about some of the stuff that we do here for law enforcement. So with that said, let's go ahead and introduce yourself and kind of give us a little bit of your non-traditional background, which we just learned about, and then how you transitioned into the career that you are in now.
For sure. So Mike Glass, as you explained, I came from the healthcare background, so I was more on medical sales side of things. I worked in organ and tissue donation.
Okay.
So I would help get contracts through hospitals and different local organizations who would facilitate organ and tissue donation. So that was kind of my first stab at, negotiating.
Pun intended? Or
yeah,
no?
right. Yeah. Negotiating contracts and things like that to get, in order for us to have contracts with purchasing tissue that actually you weren't able to purchase tissue, but the services for procuring those tissues that would go later for transplant. So I did that for I did it for about 18 years, but the last 10 years I was on the road traveling, doing that all across the country. And it just came to a point where I was done with,
Sure.
100 and some plus nights a year in a hotel. And this opportunity came to join Vance's with the LE side. Mm-hmm. And there's some similarities for sure with the first responder type stuff because, we were dealing with accidents that happen, pretty immediately. Mm-hmm. And then sort of that sales and negotiation type stuff. And then, with me and I have family members and things like that who've been involved with military
Sure.
and law enforcement for sure was a natural leaning of mine anyway. And so I joined the team 2 years ago. I want to say March 8th was actually my second year.
Oh, okay, cool.
So came over and the law enforcement division itself has been part of Vance's for 25 plus years.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
So what's that, late 90s? Feels like it should be 70s, but
no joke.
Yeah,
no joke.
It makes you feel old. So yeah, late 90s. I want to say we have a team of about 15 over there.
Okay.
On Cleveland Ave, and we have a team on the inside that helps facilitate sales and getting quotes out to customers, whether that's law enforcement. We see things with school resource officers, hospitals. So it is really a wider spectrum than most people think. So we have the inside team that really supports our sales guys as well. We have 4 salesmen who cover our territory, which ranges from Michigan to Indiana to Ohio. We have Kentucky, West Virginia. So those 4 guys are, out on the path, kind of doing their thing. And when we get those leads and we get those relationships built, then we funnel those into our inside team, where they take care of, like I said, issuing quotes, getting pricing, doing all those things to help us get what they need in their hands.
Sure.
So, and I think that was a big part of what I wanted to be. What I wanted to do when I got here, and what it was exciting is when I met with Doug Vance, and understanding this wasn't just. We're not just selling widgets.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm not just selling, hey, here's some ammo, here's a gun, here's
your nightstick, whatever.
For sure.
Yeah.
If we really wanted to be a resource for the customers.
Sure.
And while I'm still learning a lot, it's been a nice change of pace to have agencies call and say, hey, what's your opinion on this?
Yeah.
They're not just calling and saying, hey, I need 3 of these, and that does happen.
Sure.
But a lot of time we are getting them saying, hey, I'm interested in this. What's your opinion? Or even if you see something and you're like, well, that may not fit exactly what you think it is.
Yeah.
So you can have that conversation. And I like that back and forth. It makes you feel more engaged. And again, you're not just selling, widgets or these one-off things just to fulfill that quota.
Oh, for sure.
So I like being the resource, and that's what we really preach to our staff. We want them to learn what they're doing, not just regurgitate, so being that, like I said, being that resource for anyone that were to call in.
Oh, for sure. And it's funny, Ben kind of knows when I came to the team, it's almost been 2 years now too. Mm-hmm. Right before I came, I think Doug and I had the same extension.
Yeah.
So up until probably maybe just a couple months ago, I would get calls for Doug all the time. Like, hey, I'm such and such from correctional facility or this sheriff's office or whatever. And I'm like, yep. 1 second. Let me get you over to Doug. Let me get you. And quite honestly, and it's a little bit of my own fault, but that's really all I knew about what we did and what we serviced. And,
Right.
and excuse me, I knew that we provided equipment to these agencies, but not necessarily what extent or how deep that actually goes. So I know you're providing more of a service than just selling widgets, but for the customers listening, what kind of widgets are they coming for? Like, how are we providing them with what kind of stuff are we providing these agencies? And if we can, maybe could dive into not specifics of what department by name, but overall, State Highway Patrol, correctional facilities, sheriff's office. Like,
right.
Let's get into some of that stuff.
Right. Yeah. So first of all, it's all of the above. We are selling firearms, ammunition, body armor, night vision, optics.
Really? Okay.
Red dots are kind of becoming very popular, as you guys know, not only on the commercial side, but on the law enforcement side too, just due to, just some of the, training. The training can happen in less amount of time, less amount of ammo needed to be shot. It has also helped preserve some of these, what they call age-dyed shooters.
Yeah.
Where as you get older, and I mean, I think it's after the age of like 32 or 35, so we're probably all old.
I'm definitely old.
So, but they, once you get that past that age, your eyes start to change in a way that being focused on those sites can really create problems, and the red dots have really helped alleviate some of that. So, the agencies have seemed to be kind of gravitating that way, and so that's been important. We sell handcuffs, really anything you can imagine a police officer would wear or need, rifles, shotguns. We don't sell vehicles at this time or anything like that, but for the most part, anything we can do to outfit them and keep them safe and perform the job that's needed to be done.
Before we started, I looked on the website, just messing around to see some of the things.
Oh, yeah.
I saw something on there. It was like an old school, like a bolo in like a stun gun form.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, so that's called the Bowler Wrap.
Okay.
The company's Wrap Technologies, and it almost, I don't know, like in my mind they don't advertise it this way. To me, it almost looks like something like Wonder Woman would carry, but it's. It's a device that is it's lower on the use of force continuum, so it's below taser, and it's really it's meant as it's discharged, it shoots out a six foot Kevlar cord, I believe, that has some probes on the end, and it can wrap around the individual.
Wow!
And it does it just long enough so that you can, first of all, it's an attention getter because it does use a it's loud.
Yeah.
It sounds like a gunshot. So it kind of gets your attention. So they use it for, people who may have some kind of mental health deficiency or just someone who's erratic.
Yeah.
So you hear that and it's like, whoa, did I just get shot?
Yeah,
but they didn't. It's a Kevlar cord, comes out, wraps them just enough, like I said, to whether that's get hands on or be able to control the situation. So it is pretty cool. And we do
Wonder Woman thing cracks me up. I can see her like whipping it around.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of comes out straight like this, but the way it comes out, it definitely wraps around. So, but yeah, that's it is on the website, and it's kind of interesting to look at for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go check it out because I don't think I've ever seen it.
Yeah, the bowler wrap.
It looks like a stun gun.
Yeah.
But it's obviously going to shoot at that bolo thing.
Yep. Has a little laser light to it, so for aiming purposes, obviously. But yeah,
I think I was going through the Facebook page, so I obviously we were trying to fill a position not too long ago.
Right.
For a sales rep, and so I was on the Facebook page, and I pulled up. Have you been tased yet?
I have not.
Oh, Doug, if you're listening, Kevin, if you're listening, I think he's volunteering.
If you ask Doug, I tell him I have a heart condition.
There you go.
Yeah.
So no, I have not been tased. So
that was going to be my next question.
Oh, was
like, since we sell this stuff, do you have to be
perfect?
Like, hit with the less than lethal stuff, or
I mean, we don't use everything we have. So why do we have to?
Sure.
If you're asking me to be doing,
no, I just wonder.
No, we have had some of our staff who have volunteered to be tased, and I think Doug's been tased. We've had our staff volunteer to be wrapped with the bowler wrap as well. I mean, and it's part of our demos that we do with agencies as well, because that's one of the things our sales guys do is we put on demos across different areas and invite multiple agencies in to show them sort of we'll have a bowler demo and we'll have those agencies come in to be able to see that, and so we do that with a lot of our different lines that we have. We'll do ammo shoots where people can see the ballistics and through the gel shoots and things like that. Same thing with ammo with armor. Do the same thing, armor shoots, so they can see how the lines that we carry perform next to the ones they've heard of or used to, just so that they can see what we're selling and how well it performs.
I'm glad you got into that too, because that was one thing when I mentioned the sales rep side, that was one thing I was going to mention. Like these product demos, obviously these agencies want to see. Is this Safari Land vest going to be better than this product that I'm using, or this Hornady ammo as opposed to this Winchester ammo? Whatever one that they're using. So that's interesting that they would go through that. Is that now when you guys do that? Is that like that's on a case-by-case basis? That's not like necessarily like a show or anything, would it be?
No, I guess it could be. I know they've done demos at some of the shows we've been to, but a lot of times we will. It's part of what our sales guys do. They'll go, and if they have an agency interested in Hornady ammo, they will. Again, they'll try to get the word out because we want to maximize the audience to that. And so, like I said, we'll have the gel shoot. So we're putting that on, and we also have agencies calling saying, "Hey, we're looking at either switching ammo or switching firearms or switching body armor. Would you be willing to come do a demo?" Because people want to feel it, they want to see it.
Especially they're nobody orders.
Nobody wants to go online and just like, okay, I'll take that. I mean, you can in the Amazon world because you can just return it all. But there's some more higher stakes to this, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and you're also talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars of order. Like it's not like they're just buying one Glock 19. They're buying 50
for sure.
And so you want to make sure that you're getting the right product for your division.
Yeah, so trying to get their hands on that and get them to see that. So, and we do. I mean, we have things down at OBETS at the range. We'll put on the armor courses, and we'll also do demos down there with our. We'll invite our rep in along with our sales staff to kind of show them all the different aspects of that particular firearm, or again showing them how that ammunition does compare.
Yeah,
so, that's cool too.
I'm thinking that's our next trip. Next time they go, we go check out how these vests and stuff work, because I think that would be so cool.
There you go.
To see fit and finish, and especially if somebody's out on duty, like most of those guys are wearing a shirt over top of it, the vest and all that stuff. To be able to put it on is probably a big deal. Like you said, it's not like Amazon.
Yeah.
You're going to want to make sure it fits well. You're going to want to make sure you can move in it.
Yeah.
All that stuff, because that's a big deal for a police officer.
For sure. I mean, your life or death, right? When I first started, I got invited to can't remember the agency off the top of my head, but it was local, and they had an officer who had been shot in the line of duty, and so Safariland we have their body armor, and they have a saves program, so they keep track of all the different saves that happen, and we got to go with Safariland and the sales staff who was involved in that transaction, and I got to go to do the
like an interview type thing.
Not necessarily an interview, but I think they gave them like a plaque or something, and just to hear that story. And I was still really new, so to sit back and be like, and that's when I kind of made the connection of like, we're not just selling things just to sell them. While obviously that's your goal, but when you can see the human side to it, and the human element of what you're doing does impact in certain people. And so that was pretty good. It's emotional, to know that this guy was able to go home that particular night.
Yeah. No, yeah, I could see that for sure. And I think that we can kind of echo that a little bit in just what we do across the board. I know I've said it several times on this show too. I mean, the police officer line and life or death situations, that's a whole nother level. But in some regard, and a much smaller regard, selling that 8-year-old boy that, mega bass, bait, and building a relationship with his family, like it goes so much deeper for us than just, selling the bow, selling the gun. That gun might be that kid's first gun that the dad just bought for him or the grandpa just bought for him, or, whatever have you. Or that might be that woman's first gun that she's ever bought to protect herself. And it's like, that stuff, what we sell is just so cool because it's so, everyone's personal, but it's part of their everyday life,
Right. And I think that, that's, while I say it's, there's a personal side to the law enforcement side, the Vances have done a great job of, it's promoted everywhere, this family-owned business that, and I think everyone kind of takes that to heart, whether you're selling a fishing pole or body armor. You're right. I think those relationships are really important.
Yeah. You got big shoes to fill when Doug eventually decides he's going to retire.
Yeah. We'll see what happens.
Switching. Yeah. But going back to that though, it's, if the cool thing is that with, I joke about Doug's extension, but at the same time, how many police forces can call up a company and directly talk to someone that runs the, it's not just the guy that's running it. It's the guy that, it's his company. It's part of his company. And so they can go straight to the top and talk to somebody. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah. And they all have, they have connections. They can get my cell phone. They have Doug's at the, probably on speed dial, and as they're getting to know me, I get those same phone calls, and our manager, Sean, we get those phone calls, and it's nice to know, like, to feel that they have a connection that they can really reach out when they need to at any given time.
Sure. Now, I didn't really think about this, and I don't know like how much of this you can elaborate on, but obviously the climate of the world that we are right now, and with the law enforcement folks, if you will, all the stuff that we have across the country going on. Have you seen buying patterns change as they kind of navigate these waters of whether it be like the racial tension stuff, cultural tension, like have the police forces across the country, have you seen like them go into more non-lethal stuff? Has there been any shift in the waters a little bit with how things are handling now?
Yeah.
Especially everything's under a microscope now, and so that's kind of where I was getting with that.
Right. It is. Again, with me being here, just around 2 years, sometimes those patterns can be be relatively long. So I came in right at the end. I don't know if you'd call it the end of COVID, but about towards the end of that kind of chaos.
Yes.
And so, for instance, ammo was really hard to kind of nail down, and those wait times were pretty great. And obviously, I think we've turned a corner in that. So with those things going on, that was impacted a lot by some of the social unrest. I couldn't say specifically with data that all of a sudden like the bowler wrap is become like really popular or anything like that. But you do see. Like I've seen the riot shields and the helmets and the gear like that. I did see that sort of ramp to a different degree that I would have imagined. Again, I don't have the data just from my short tenure, but those are good questions. And when you're at shows and you're talking to chiefs on the phone, you do get that feeling that you could be a riot away or some civic issue away.
It just takes one moment, right?
From something turning this into another kind of, I don't want to say free for all, but sort of a
well, Columbus experienced something like that not too long ago,
right?
And so it's right. I mean, that was right in our backyard,
right?
And so and I had family friends and coworkers, husbands and stuff that had to go work in the State Highway Patrol, had to go work and protect Capitol buildings and stuff as they were kind of riding the streets there for a while. I remember, was that 21 or 20? I think it was 20.
Right.
Yeah.
George Floyd stuff probably, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But regardless, that's kind of what, like you said, I mean, you're one unfortunate incident away from potentially having to have the riot shields and have all this stuff. And so, while you don't want to have that incident, you also have to be prepared because you don't want to be caught either.
For sure. So yeah, when there's news that's going to hit or news that has hit, I have personally taken calls. Was like, hey, this is coming out, or this just came out. I'd like to look at doing X or getting this or that. So there is a component to it for sure, and I think that's the important part of maintaining those relationships.
Yes.
So that when they call and if they have questions like, hey, what's your recommendation, versus just sort of waiting back and someone say, I need this shotgun or I need this particular rifle or whatever. So I do enjoy that part of it for sure.
So like as far as purchasing goes, I know we do like full departments, but if let's say somebody needs something, a police officer, like what if someone, I don't know how often this happens, but what if someone's going from State Highway Patrol to a local PD and they require something different? How does that buying situation work?
Well, even to tie into that too, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe some on the State Highway Patrol, like on their AR, they can build that AR to some extent as well. If I'm not mistaken, if I'm not mistaken, I think that you can actually customize it to some regard to fit your needs as well. So.
Yeah. So, we do have an individual officer program. Yep. So obviously if they're part of an agency, typically the agency's providing the things they need. Some of them are given stipends for different things that they may need, or like private security, they have to come in. And when they do that, we do have certain lines that cater to the individual officer. Okay. So they still, they get a different discount than they may if they were just walking off walking in off the street to buy a firearm. So we have a person who's just dedicated to individual officers. So if the phone's ringing and it's an individual saying, hey, I'm interested in buying this particular firearm for myself, or I need a holster, or I need a light, whatever it might be. Yeah. We work with our vendors to make sure that they have something available to those individual officers. Cool. And when they do, they provide some sort of credentialing depending on what the line is. Everyone has a little bit different kind of makeup of what they want. And our goal is to be able to sell to those guys too, because they obviously it's the same person, whether you're an individual officer or you're with an agency, it's the same person. So it falls into our wheelhouse, and we want to be able to serve them as well.
That's cool. And I've seen some of the brands, and you may be able to add some more, but let's just looking at the firearm side. We know that SIG has an LE line. We know that Glock, Springfield, Smith. I mean, all the major players probably have some type of LE line, right? So if an officer did want to come in and purchase, maybe it's that it's that revolver side piece that they're having on their ankle, or whatever that may not be necessarily part of their standard issue. I guess what I'm getting at is, are there any other brands, or can we touch on some of the brands that we do carry so people can kind of get a feel for that? So obviously, like we mentioned, Smith, Glock.
So yeah, I mean those are the big three. We do have Springfield. We do have we have a lineup with Kel-Tec. So we Walther as well.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So yeah, those are probably the top we have, tops that we have. I'm trying to think as far as individual officer on the firearm side. Like I said, we try to anybody that comes in and is interested in any of those, we if we don't know, obviously we reach out. We have a lot of experienced staff between Sean and Doug that they typically know these things. But if we don't know, we can go to a vendor and say, hey, we have an officer looking at doing this. What do you have some sort of individual officer program that we can tag into to be able to help them? So.
Yeah, and that's sometimes we get feedback too. It's like especially on the like I'm just looking at the MPX. on SIG. That was like kind of the only availability we have of that right now is from the LE division. And so we get a lot of customer feedback sometimes. Well, how come I can't buy it? How come I can't buy it? I'm like, well, sir, that was dedicated by SIG for us and for terms of law enforcement purposes. Like, sorry.
Right.
But it's nice because in that same regard, you talked about ammo shortages and firearms, being hard to get. Do you see that those companies are prioritizing, getting those out for us in terms of the LE side? Or
yeah, I mean, so they all have an LE. They usually all have an LE dedicated department, sort of like we do.
Sure.
And it may not always, be at the, if it's a big commercial outfit, I don't know that LE might take their precedence company wide. Okay. But as far as the LE side, we definitely see them trying to make those available as quickly as they can. And we've had instances where officers get hired. There's been everyone across the country has dealt with employee shortages, not being able to find people leaving, and it's no different in law enforcement either. So I just last week I had someone call and say, I just hired an officer and I don't have a firearm. And so he ordered 2. Well, one we happen to have, so it worked out for that particular officer. He's like, he's going to be carrying his own firearm, whatever, and that's not ideal.
No,
but we've made calls, and they can't always do it because if everyone has an urgent matter, then there's nothing urgent, right?
Exactly.
So, but when we can show that this is something that we need to do, they have tried in the past to dedicate that, it's like I said, I think we've turned a little bit of a corner, at least with ammo, and we've seen some of the shrink time, that lead time shrink with different lines as well, which is encouraging because there's nothing worse for not only a customer. I think if you order something off Amazon and it takes you 3 months to get it, that can be really frustrating. Well, same thing with these guys. If it's like, we need this ammo yesterday and it's going to be X down the road, that's frustrating. So to know that that's improving is really, it's really a good thing. So
for sure. I know, like, recently, I don't know how long ago, but it's been, I think, at least 2, maybe 3 years. I think most departments are on the 9mm now, like it was 40. Yeah. How did that transition work with us? Did we get a lot of stuff back, or did we trade off for 9s? Or?
Yeah, so we did see a transition where agencies were going from 40 to 9. Yep. And so we have a couple programs for trades. So agencies, and it's funny that I still see agencies who don't know that we do this, but we take in duty trades. Mm-hmm. So if they have 40s and they're going to 9, we give them a value on the firearms they have, and they can use that towards their new purchase, which is really cool, because if you don't have that, I mean, that capital's coming, directly from their budget.
Yep. Exactly.
So that's really cool. But on top of the duty trades, we also, we will take their duty ammo as well. So if they can't, if we take their 40 firearms and they're stuck with the 40 ammo, that doesn't make sense. Right. So we will take those and use those as well. The other thing we have, we offer the agencies our confiscated trades as well. Mm-hmm. So anything that they've taken off of the bad guys, once they kind of go through their procedure with them and all that stuff's wrapped up, they can trade those into us, and it'll be an agency could give us a miscellaneous pile of guns. Pallet. So we'll go and we'll go and look at those and get as much information as we can, give them values on those, and then we sell those to our customers as well, typically on the commercial side, which you guys have seen that. So, but that is a good program. Yeah. It does give them, it gives them a little more buying power for things that they need.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we just took in a whole bunch of. I'm a Glock 22 40 guy, so I kind of got in on it when 40s were hot too. But when I first started too, we just a couple rooms over in the warehouse, we got all of our trade-ins over there on pallets and pallets and stuff, and we see those massive orders of Glock 40s coming in. Like, oh man, it hurts my heart a little bit, but I get it. I mean, I get why they're switching, but man, it is cool because I'm glad. Let's say you are, you're a listener and you're not a law enforcement agent or law enforcement officer, which most of you probably aren't. It's pretty cool to know that, hey, like these guns, we do buy these in trade and we do sell them, whether it be online or in our store. So, you can definitely take advantage of that too.
Sure. Yep. We try to get those spread out across our different locations and the internet as well. So, Yeah, and we bring them in all the time.
All the time.
I couldn't tell you numbers, but I think it's in the thousands. I wouldn't know that, off the top of my head, but it's a good amount of.
I know
work.
some guys have gotten some really cool stuff, especially on the confiscation side or the confiscated side. I think one of our associates grabbed a 28 gauge shotgun, which is like, it was in good condition, but it was a confiscated gun, and. So we get some bad stuff too. A lot of bad stuff. Yeah. A lot of junk. But at the same time, we also, every once in a while you'll find a diamond in the rough in there. Sure. So, if you're a customer listening, I'd take advantage of it for sure.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I bought a 17 from one of the trades.
Oh, yours was?
I don't think it had been fired. It still had the copper, the grease in there and everything.
Oh, really?
There was no marking on the top of the barrel. I mean, it was nice. I'm like, man, this thing's like brand new.
Yeah.
So sometimes you get lucky and might find one that just sat waiting for an officer and never got used. I don't know if that happens very often, but
yeah. Yeah, I mean, a lot of them have to prepare.
He tried to sell it to me at full price, too. You believe that crap?
I believe it. I think he called me, too.
That's the first time I ever heard that story. I didn't know you got it in on trade.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
He's like, I got this Glock. Oh, okay. I see. Hey, you want to buy my 17? I don't need it anymore. I'm going 45 or 10 mil. 10 mil.
No, I said you need to get rid of that 40 and get a 9.
I know. It's special. I could never do it, though, because so my father-in-law bought me my very first pistol was a LC9. Okay. My father-in-law bought it and gifted it to me, and take that aside for what you will, technically, but that Glock 22 was the first handgun. The Ruger just didn't feel good for me. Right? Sure. My hands are a little bit too big for it, and so that obviously being a full size gun. And at that time, before I started here, I was shooting indoor. Not timed like what Andrew does, but kind of those tactical situations where you're trying to get 2 shots on target and then move to the next one. It wasn't necessarily timed, but more accuracy based. And there was a full size division. I'm like, this is perfect. So cool. I used it. Yeah. I used it lots and lots and lots and lots. And but yeah, now the 10 mil and the 9. I have a 43, so that's like my carry gun. But yeah, the 10 mil is kind of taking over the world a little bit. Have you seen some of that with the 10?
A little bit. Yeah, for sure. So
I thought 45 was just going to be the king until I died. Now it's kind of slowly. I mean, there's some guys that still want their 45 1911s for sure, but
you're going to always have sort of the old school holdouts, to stick with what was either what they considered tried and true, or what they learned from their father or grandfather, So, but it's interesting.
I know at the beginning of the podcast we talked about optics, carry optics a little bit.
Yeah.
Have you seen a bunch of transition, or are there still people kind of like, I don't know if I really want to do red dots, or is it just fully changed over?
No, it's not. It's not full on from my experience. There's definitely been a surge for sure, but you do still have some of the holdouts who, for whatever that reason may be,
they don't trust batteries.
Yeah, right. Well, you don't do. They trust the department to remember to change their batteries.
Sure.
Is it all on the armor? Whether it's budgetary or just stereotype. I don't know, but no, it's not like 100% of the agencies have switched over, but it's a large enough surge that you're seeing some of the main lines put on optic courses just for that. So that should tell you something there that it's a push that's real and it's here, and and you'll have some that won't, and that works for them. It's obviously what they have to do. But yeah, it's definitely a thing. It's not just I don't think it's a fad, because even like when I said when I started, I was already starting to see it, and I was kind of amazed. I was like, I don't know that I ever really thought about like red dots and police officers, but I was immediately working with them. So And I'm not sure the time frame of when that surge happened. We've done some training with some of the Red Dot Optics guys, and they've given different explanations of different cases that have happened out of Los Angeles or New York or Chicago that really kind of helped push cases towards using red dots due to the just due to the situation awareness and things like that. And when you have like LAPD looking at something, then everyone's going to look at something.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's from my understanding, that's sort of kind of where some of those things get its start, and it's been a little bit of a train that's definitely here.
Yeah.
So
I wonder how much of it comes from like the consumer market driven to what you see in the the actual law enforcement market. Like, are there trends? Like we joked about 10 millimeter, but it's becoming a trend in the consumer market. Is it? And I don't know the answer to this, but does it start from the consumer market and lead its way over to the law enforcement market, or sometimes it goes backwards? It goes the other way around too. Like, what's good for the law enforcement? Because I think you see it both ways a little bit.
Yeah, that's a great question. I know that like some of the first things that I heard was the whole subject focused shooting. When you're really focused on the sights, you sort of you lose a little focus of what the subject is you're looking at, and there's been instances where that focus has not been there, and there's been instances that have caused some problems, whereas the red dots really allow you to be subject focused because the red dot's there and kind of doing the work for you. So
makes sense.
That was some of it. So, but I'm sure there is some of the whole back and forth. What's cool in commercial will eventually hit LE, and then what's cool in LE will hit the commercial side. Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah, no joke.
I couldn't tell you, but when we do these trainings, it's the situational awareness and in the training aspect of again keeping officers on the line of duty longer, because as soon as your eyesight starts going, it's just harder, and it requires more training, which requires more ammo, which requires more money. So to have all those things decrease because of this device has been something that we've seen a trend, and again, it's real.
It makes me wonder how something like that could, you think of something so small as a red dot, but how much of a difference it can make, because if you're getting officers that would potentially retire early or leave because they're not able to perform like they used to, now those officers are staying longer, especially in today's climate where not as many people want to become a police officer. I mean, God bless them, because I don't know why they would right now, but so they're not hiring as many people, just like everyone else.
Right.
And so there's something so simple as the red dot could, have drastic impacts on the department just because they've been able to retain and hold talent for a longer period of time.
Right. Yep. Right. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it goes. Again, there's agencies that are going to hold out, and I'm sure they all have very good reasons on their side of things of why they choose not to, and so they have to make the best decisions for themselves. But again, our goal is to kind of be the resource for them when they have those questions and say, hey, we have 50-man agency. What would it look like to outfit my department with X or Y? So, and we want to be there and available to them. So, and our team is doing we have a relatively new staff, and so we're getting the training in their hands, and they ask good questions of the people who have experience, and so being able to have all of our team to be able to be that resource, and our sales guys out on the road, they all have a number of years experience. And it starts with them. They're out there sowing those seeds, and that has been again, they're just a wealth of knowledge for what they're doing as well. So I really enjoy the fact that my team can provide those answers and ask relevant questions as well. If somebody wants a certain caliber of ammo or a certain type of ammo, it's like, well, what are you using this for?
Sure.
And they're like, oh, well, that's a
exactly.
That's a question I never thought about. We just wanted this 308 or whatever it is. We can say, well, just so you know, like, have you thought about the over penetration or under penetration? Or what are you typically using this for? Are you shooting through glass? Are you shooting through automobiles? Are you going to apartments?
Yes.
So those are all relevant questions, and it would be easy to just sit back and and sell what they ask for.
Oh, for sure.
But I wouldn't personally stay very long if that's what I was doing.
No,
so
no.
that component of it is encouraging, and I hope I hope my staff embraces that, and I hope the customers see that as well when they call us, that we really are trying to make sure that they have the best possible equipment and the best possible and the most knowledge that they can of what they're purchasing.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
That's really cool. You guys do that.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a big
sure
difference,
they got
man.
the right stuff.
Yeah, exactly. You know, what you need for an apartment where you don't want penetration,
Right.
pass-through penetration,
Right.
as opposed to long-distance shooting through,
Right.
a car windshield. Those are completely different needs.
Yeah, and it's not something you think about as again, I've shot guns my whole life. I never really sat back and thought about it from a law enforcement side of like, oh, you got to be careful in this situation, or even at my own house with self-defense. Like I never really thought about it as like, what can I do to get the job done? You go to a counter, it's like, here, get that. But there is more to go into it, and we want to be good resources.
It goes back to that kind of that self-defense. I love ARs just as much as the next guy, but it's not necessarily, in some people's opinion, it's not necessarily the best tool to defend your home, because if I shoot this guy and it happens to go through and gets into my whatever apartment, kid's room, neighbor's house,
Right.
like shotgun, pistol, like, so those are all questions and all things that you need to make sure that you truly understand that that's what you want to do with it.
For sure. Absolutely.
Same thing even goes for pistol ammo. A lot of people
yeah.
carry ball ammo, and they shouldn't be carrying ball ammo.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't know. I've never learned. And that's something that we always, I'm sure most of the guys at the firearms counter, when an individual comes in to buy a firearm, they're like, you might want to get some ball ammo for training, and you might want to get some hollow points for protection. For sure.
What did Jason say that? I think something about the critical duty ammo. We were joking about the zombie ammo.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember the zombie
Oh,
ammo,
yeah.
when Walking Dead was coming out.
Right.
Gosh, I wish I knew what he said. I'm fine being the ammo that stays in your gun safe or stays in your holster. Gosh, I wish I remember what he said.
I can't remember it.
Go back and listen to Jason Hornady's podcast, because he talks about all that stuff too. So
Funny. Yeah.
one thing I'm interested in, and maybe it goes right along the same lines, but I know that we also work with a lot of correctional institutions as well. What kind of difference can you talk about with just the straight up LE, Sheriff's Department, State Patrol, city police, as opposed to what we do with the correction facilities? Is there much of a difference there?
A little bit. Obviously the things they consume more of are going to be at a higher, especially, here in Ohio, the things that they're going to consume a little more are, your gases and OC sprays. I'd venture, but as far as, State Highway Patrol versus Sheriff's Office or the local PDs, those are going to be relatively similar.
Yeah.
But you do, with corrections, you're dealing with just, a different environment. Things are closer. There's more people.
Yes.
So, that's going to require a different element of equipment and things that they use a lot more often than you might as a police officer.
Yeah. There's not as much. I feel like there's probably not as much variety.
Right.
A prison riot's a prison riot,
right?
For the most part, I have no experience in that. Don't get.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean, as opposed to what I see on TV. But you know what I mean, though, like as a state patrol, one day you may be encountering something on the highway versus next time you might be in the city, or hell, next time you might even be working with a SWAT team doing something.
Right.
God forbid, school shooting or whatever have you. So it felt like that might be a little bit of a different.
Yeah, and obviously even the police departments and the sheriff's office have a different component of corrections too, because they're going to have housing for inmates as well. So I know, talking with one of the sheriff's office, listening to some of the questions that they had as they're revamping or rehabbing some of their facilities, when they just talked about, for instance, like even OC spray or gas.
Yeah.
When they talk about like how do we feed a tube under the door to be able to kind of maximize it in this big area versus if you're an officer in a struggle here, you're just you have your handheld unit. So just the kind of the size difference, even in the scope of things that they're dealing with, because I don't know the numbers that any of the local sheriffs have at any given time in their cells, but you can imagine when you have a lot of guys with the same sort of mentality and they get their mind set on something, you better be able to control the situation. So, but so it's a little bit different. But I mean, but they all need the same equipment. They all need, and they all need to be well versed in what they're doing and how to use it even. So, and again, that's just what we try to do.
And I'm saying it directly ties back to, building those relationships and understanding what these people need as opposed to this person, as you continue to go. So looking back at this, I think, what is Ben mentioned it's forever in my brain now is Wonder Woman. But
the bolo thing.
The bolo thing.
Yeah.
What's been
Bola.
What's been one of those I guess pieces of equipment that obviously coming from medical sales into what you're doing now, what's one of those pieces of equipment you're like, wow, I never really realized that they needed that?
Well, I mean, for sure, the bolo wrap was definitely something that I never heard of, and I mean, it's a relatively new product as well.
Yeah.
So that's part of it, but I never thought about it. And, and as we're trying to get more awareness to that particular line, there's even, departments who probably, they may have heard of it, but it's still relatively new in that aspect. But I mean, it's an odd thing to think about as a civilian, be like, you're pointing this thing at me and it has a laser light. You don't know what to expect.
It's kind of Batman-ish, man.
Yeah.
That's my kid loves Batman, so that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, so that is definitely the one thing that I looked at as well, and it's like, oh, okay, I guess I never really thought about that. So, but everything else, it kind of goes along lines of, okay, I can imagine a police officer needing this, and this, but then this came out, and you're like, oh, okay, does it wrap them up for good? Does it stay tight? Like, what's the component? And then once you learn about it, and there's videos of it, people can go on the Wrap Technology website, and they actually, one of the cool things is they have videos of the deployment of those, so you can go on their website and see the actual deployments that agencies are in their in the bolo wrap will upload those videos, so almost like seeing taser videos, but the bolo wrap is you can see those deployments. And it's
like real-time situation.
For sure, yeah. Well, and they're uploaded videos, but yeah, they're, the one I'm thinking about, like these guys go into a room and this lady's on the bed and she's jumping up and down, acting a little crazy. Yeah. And they're like, calm down, come off the bed. We just want to talk. And there was no calming this person down. Yep. And so, they give their warning, do that, and, that instant they were able to kind of ease the situation with a minimal use of force. Again, you're just kind of getting wrapped for that second just so they can, control the situation. Because it's right after verbal commands.
Yeah.
It's not quite the taser, and it's like I said, it's right after verbal commands, so it's really low, and which is another good tool for those guys to have.
Yeah, man. Anything that they can do to help mitigate any type of situation.
For sure.
Yep. I mean, the taser may be cool until that person has a heart problem, like we joked about earlier, right. And then now they're in hot water because they tased this person when they never thought to, or that was too extreme. It's like this is another option for sure to help them control the situation, but yet still keep everything.
Well, check them out. It's kind of interesting.
I'm
for
sure.
sure.
Have to, man. I've never heard about it until today. So
really?
I'm surprised that I had no idea. I'm glad you brought that up because I would have had no idea, man.
I was like, check this thing out. It's pretty cool. So I thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah, I don't know if our LE website, that's a good idea. While I'm thinking about it, is we should somehow link that to Wrap, and maybe there is a link. I guess I'm not sure, but when you go on our LE website, there is, and that's probably where you saw it, is for Wrap Technologies, and to be able to kind of see what it looks like, and go on theirs and see some of the videos of it being used. So, but yeah,
maybe you can download some and overlap it in the video.
I'm sure we can. I think we can link it to the product in the product listing and show it. Like it'll be a YouTube. You said they're on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure the platform they're using, but we can see the videos. I mean, I can definitely share.
We might be able to work something out. Yeah. Get it on the website.
We should reach out to them and put it in right now. I'm just kidding. Well, sweet, man. I don't even know how long we've been recording, but it seems to have been pretty good. Just any last thoughts that you had about what you guys do with the law enforcement department. I mean, if it's let's say someone's interested in more, a division, or an agency is listening to this, where can they find you and kind of give them that plug?
Yeah, so you can obviously go on the website. If they do an inquiry on there, that comes straight to us.
Okay.
They can. There's a website for our email address at info@vancesle.com. And they can always call into the store and ask for any of us, then help kind of guide through what they're looking for. And yeah, it'll be interesting, to see kind of how we continue to grow and provide different services,
sure.
and see where it goes from there.
And if you are calling extension 315, is Doug Vance, not 115.
He's gonna love you giving his extension out on the air. Nah, he's great. He won't care. He loves talking this stuff.
Oh, he does.
He breathes it, and so he knows it all very well, and so he enjoys that.
And he shared a lot of cool stuff with us here while we were building this conversation up to even have you guys coming on. So I'm excited about expanding this conversation even further and diving a little bit more into the weeds about some of these different organizations, or how Red Dots are taking over, or how he mentioned about some of these other organizations that are helping first responders that have been through crisis situations. So look forward to a lot more of that. We have a lot of retired police officers, state patrolmen on our team across the board, really.
Sure.
Specifically, I'm looking at the LE and OBETs and those kind of places. But we're going to continue to dive into this. I think these guys put their life on their line all the time for us, and I feel like we owe them that moment of fame, if you will, if you want to call it that, with us. But we owe them that recognition and support. So I'm super glad that you were able to come on today and kind of share some insight, because like I said, I probably should know more, but I didn't, and you definitely have helped bridge that gap for us.
Sure, yeah, we appreciate it. I'm glad you guys reached out, and we'll look forward to doing it again.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
All right, everyone, that is all we have for you today. We hope you enjoyed that conversation with Mike. Like I mentioned earlier, we've been known for a long time for having some of the best selection of products for our customers, and we hope this conversation shed more light on the service that we provide to those who put their life on the line daily. As a reminder, we are on the bi-weekly schedule, so our next episode release will be on Tuesday, April 11th. As always, we appreciate you listening, and until next time, enjoy the pursuit.